our pleasure to welcome you to our online pre-vet summer school. We'll just start with the notifications because I'm mindful there are still a couple of students whom we're waiting on. So at the moment, if your computer hasn't already done it, please just turn off your camera and mute your microphone. Otherwise, we might hear you having a sip of tea or coffee. And we'll use the chat functionality if there are any questions, and you can post them throughout the session today, so you don't need to wait until the end. We'll be turning to that when we reach a suitable point to be able to respond to any questions which you no doubt will have. I say we'll wait a couple more minutes and get started by the latest at 5 past the hour. Okay, as it's getting close to sort of 5 past, I'll just give this introduction for one last time. Welcome to the online pre-vet summer school. If you've just recently joined and your computer hasn't already done it, please turn off your camera so that you're not broadcasting yourself, and also please do turn off your microphone. Then we won't hear you typing away as you're writing notes or anything like that. As you will no doubt see on your screen, we are recording this session, and all of the core teaching sessions, they will be uploaded onto our password protected online pre-vet summer school once we have finished the day, and we'll notify you through the Microsoft Teams app. You might also have noticed the student ambassadors, some of them doing a roll call. So we're only doing that to make sure you're not experiencing any issues trying to log on to any of the sessions. I've just checked my emails as well, and no one's emailed me saying they're experiencing any difficulties. So I think it's a good time with around just shy of 80 students, and that includes the staff members as well, for us to get started. So, as I've said, a very warm welcome to the online pre-vet summer school. The schedule, the staff, the ambassadors, and I include them within the staff that we've put together, we truly feel that will give we hope a fantastic week, and we appreciate that you are spending a large portion of your summer vacation, for most of you, with us. So we want to make it as impactful as possible. Over the next sort of 30 minutes, we want to just clarify some things, a bit process orientated, a bit of an introduction to the RVC, just so you get a sense of the journey we're going to embark upon over the subsequent 5 days. As I mentioned to some of you at the top of the call, please do post any questions which you have in the chat function. We are not assessing you today, tomorrow, at any point this week, as I'll re-emphasize slightly later on in the presentation. This opportunity, the online pre-vet summer school, is in the hope that we will help develop yourselves, become stronger applicants and more prepared for veterinary school. We hope that's at the RVC, but we also know that we won't be the best fit for every student. So in those instances, we hope it's at another school somewhere around the globe. So no doubt, and we shared these photos, I should say, in the joining instructions video. You're probably feeling quite excited, we hope, but obviously with excitement, there's probably a few nerves, and we hope that through the joining instructions and through the subsequent 30 minutes, we'll be able to allay those nerves, which you, myself, the student ambassadors, and my colleague Rich probably all have at this precise moment as well. One of our student ambassadors, and I don't think she invented the saying, but if you're feeling nervous, it's probably a good thing because it means you're about to do something brave. So if you are feeling nervous, rest assured you're about to do something brave, and usually that results in something good. So I'm sure you've had time to look at our online pre-vet summer school website, and hopefully you've been able to meet the members of the team. So just by first name, sorry, I've alphabetized their photo. So you're probably already familiar with at least one of these students through your house on Microsoft Teams. But if you want to get to know the rest of the team, please do click on our website to find little introductory videos from all of us, the staff, both in the RVC Access and International Engagement team, which is myself and Rich, as well as the student ambassadors that you can see photographed here. Inspired by Rich's introduction, where he did a bit of mathematics, he worked out that between himself and myself, we have approximately 20 years of experience at the RVC, which was extremely rewarding to hear, but also quite scary in terms of how quickly time has passed since Rich and I started at the Royal Veterinary College. So what I did, I went back and looked at the journey which the student ambassadors have also been on with the RVC, and roughly speaking, there's almost 60 years of experience at the RVC. So we hope we can share that wealth of experience over the forthcoming week. And if you do have questions later on, then, you know, after that time period as well. So we've sort of very briefly introduced ourselves. I thought it might be good because it's quite hard through online delivery to get a sense of that feeling of camaraderie and teamwork watching your computer. That's why we have the Microsoft Teams platform, to try and make it a bit more personable so that we can get to know a little bit more about yourself, and hopefully you can get to know more about us, and we can get to a point whereby we're both comfortable in one another's presence, and we can ask you anything, you can ask us anything, with the aim, as I say, of helping you guys get to your goal of becoming a veterinary student and subsequently a veterinarian. So I'd like to introduce the online pre-vet summer school class of 2020. There's no order, so it's just random. So watch out for yourself. See if there's any animals in any of the photos which you can relate to, whether it be having a pet dog yourself, for example, or having done lambing experience or worked with cats on placement. But it is really good to have the online pre-vet summer school community whom you are looking at the minute. I will make one apology. There's one photo missing. No prizes if you work out who that is, but we will rectify that by the end of the week. So as you can see, a lot of different pets in hands, a lot of different locations across the online pre-vet summer school class of 2020. And as you can see from the current slide, a number of nationalities being represented. And these are just drawn from the nationality which you identified during the application process. So I'm very mindful that there will no doubt be some missing, for which I apologise. That's probably because you might have a number of passports or didn't put it in the application for whatever reason. But from wherever you are reaching us from wherever you're born, from whatever your nationality is, we'd really like to welcome you to the RVC family. And we thought it might be good to give a very brief introduction as to who the RVC or what the RVC family is. You can see hopefully from both your photos as well as the student ambassador photos that our student demographic has changed quite substantially since this was around 1930 or so. So up until the mid 1930s, we were an all-male college, as you can no doubt see from the photo here. Facial hair was recommended, but not essential, but bowler hats were required. Unfortunately, I can't get the student ambassadors to wear bowler hats anymore, so this is the last time you'll see a bowler hat over the forthcoming week. And I thought I'd just give a better representation of our student population today. And there's no doubt you will see throughout the week, in all of the photos we show you, it never rains at the RVC. It's always glorious sunshine. Okay, so what I'll do is just go back a little bit further, because we were founded in 1791. We were the first veterinary school in the English-speaking world, founded by a Frenchman who established us as the London Veterinary College at that time. We didn't get our Royal Charter until 1875. So from 1875 onwards, we've been known as the Royal Veterinary College. We're very proud of our history because we were able to essentially found or establish the veterinary profession within the UK, which is obviously a great accolade to have. And throughout all of that time, we've had sort of three main aims. So education, first and foremost. We were founded as a university. So, and we have been a university for the entirety of our lifespan so far. So we want to educate our own students, whether that be full-time students, whether that be students joining us on a summer school like yourself, or students who come for perhaps a day visit or anything like that before the travel restrictions were sort of in place. We also want to have a positive impact in animals' lives. So as you'll learn throughout the summer school, we have a number of clinical facilities. So we really want to improve the animals' lives who we come into contact through those clinics and hospitals. And we also want to push the boundaries that currently limit the veterinary profession. So in other words, we want to be able to treat animals in the future whom we can't necessarily treat today. And hopefully all of those sort of objectives sort of lead us towards being able to improve animal health and welfare. And they're all interrelated with regards to our education, which I mentioned at the start. Our students, as you will learn, if you're not already aware of, will be going into those hospitals where we're giving the best clinical care that we can do. And any of the discoveries which we're making in the field of veterinary sciences will be implemented into the clinics, into the laboratories, and or into the curriculum that we offer as well. So it is very cyclical. We're very proud that whilst we have that long-standing and proud history, we've been ranked the #1 veterinary school in the UK and Europe by the QS ranking systems this year, 2020. We were knocked off our perch to #2 in the world, but obviously we're going to try and regain that. We're also proud that we've been ranked as gold teaching standard by the Teaching and Excellence Framework, which is a UK initiative to sort of give you an idea with regards to the academic excellence which your teaching will be of in terms of a standard. Now, because of that sort of very focused, what's the word, approach, I guess, so our sole goal, no matter which course a student joins us on, undergraduate or postgraduate, is to improve animal health and welfare. We have a very close-knit community. We only have around 2,500 students, which for a university in the UK is pretty small. Typically, an average size university will be somewhere between 13 to 15,000 students. So, you know, in comparison, we are really tiny, but we are well represented, much as the student ambassadors display and yourselves, in terms of very differing nationalities. So students from 49 countries, staff from around 95 countries all over the world. So we are a real melting pot, as well as being a close-knit community, and we hope you get a sense of that throughout the summer school. We do also have access to more resources through the University of London. So the University of London is a group of London-based universities who come together to pool our resources. So in terms of accommodation, in terms of societies and sports clubs, as well as learning resource centres, our students can access more than they could if we were all independent or separate institutions. So you might have heard of schools such as King's College London or UCL or SOAS or LSHTM, and it doesn't matter if you haven't. Basically, there's around 18 institutions that come together to make sure we can provide all of our students with more resources than we could if we just focused on our own students. We are very proud that our veterinary medicine curriculum is accredited by the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, so that's the RCVS. We're also accredited by the AVBC, which is the Australasian board. We're also accredited by the AVMA, so that's the American Veterinary Medical Association, the North American governing body, as well as EVE, which is the European governing body. And our graduates can also access employment in South Africa and also in the Republic of Ireland. And there are no doubt other places around the world which our students can access, but they're the agreements we have with the governing bodies. So if you did decide to choose the RVC, the world is very much your oyster post-graduation. So just going back to our history to try and explain where we are within the greater scale of London itself. If you look at the Royal Veterinary College logo towards the centre of the top of the screen, you can see the V is sort of pointing towards a fairly what looks like barren land. That is the site of our Camden campus where we were still on. You can see that in the 1800s, the majority of the population around London was around the River Thames, which is the windy river, which you can see sort of meandering around about the centre of the screen. So the king, at the time we were founded, put us here so that we wouldn't infect the human population. I hasten to add, we didn't, we haven't, and hopefully we never will. But as London started to expand, we went from our farmland, which you can see from this line drawing, to having a few buildings starting to pop up again around us during the Victorian era and Industrial Revolution, until today our Camden campus, which needed to be rebuilt after the Great War, looks something like this. Just in terms of an aerial shot, we are basically the main square in the center of that photo. So you can see the main facade that you just saw. You can see a grey blue roofed buildings. That's our campus towards the left hand side, and where you can see sort of the facade coming down the right hand side, that's the edge of our campus. So you can see that our farmland has unfortunately diminished somewhat. We would regard this campus as our basic sciences campus, so where veterinary medicine students, if they're on the 5-year programme, will spend their first 2 years, or for students who are coming off a degree programme and joining our 4-year programme, would spend the first year of their programme. So the first year or first 2 years of those two pathways would be based at our Camden campus, and it's the basic sciences focus that we're going to look at primarily tomorrow on Tuesday, after we've set up an introduction to the RVC, our courses, and also what to expect in the skills required of a veterinarian. Of May last year, we were very proud to open a £14 million refurbishment programme of our Camden campus, which is the biggest refurbishment it ever saw, has ever seen, I should say, and Princess Anne was very gracious to come and open our facility. So that Royal Link, as well as the name from 1875 when we were awarded our Royal Charter, still carries through till today. Rest assured, this one sort of area is not the entirety of our Camden campus. If you want to go onto the Online Pre-Vet Summer School website, you can have a video tour of our Camden campus if you haven't already been able to see it. So I just wanted to show you into a student bedroom. So we're going to go into Charlotte's bedroom now, and there are videos again on the Online Pre-Vet Summer School website if you did want to have a bit more of an in-depth look into the student accommodation. But as you can see in Charlotte's room, she has a desk, restroom facilities, so toilet, basin, shower within, you might see just over her left-hand shoulder, cupboards for clothes, and her bed just in the right-hand corner there. These are the prices for 2020, 2021, but obviously each year are subject to change. College Grove is the on-campus accommodation which we have. We also have off-campus accommodation through Mary Branker House and our University of London halls. If you want to talk about accommodation, then we've got the seminar groups where you can speak with the student ambassadors and or just through the chat functionality within your house. So London is very much our campus for all of our students when we are not all on lockdown. So the Houses of Parliament are about 2.5 miles away, something like that. Leicester Square, Covent Garden about 1 mile away. So we are very close to the heart of London. And in stark contrast, we also have our campus in Hertfordshire, which we call our Hawkshead campus. This is the estate agent's listing of the Hawkshead estate and Bolton's Park farm when it was up for sale in the 1950s, and we jumped at the chance to purchase around a 575-acre site, which, as you can see from the aerial shot, we have made quite a few changes in the relatively short time that we have been at this campus. Again, if you want to tour this campus, we've got a video on our Online Pre-Vet Summer School website. So this is home to our veterinary medicine students for the final 3 years of whatever course they are on. So whether it be the 5-year program or the 4-year program, the final 3 years are based here. And it's here where we tend to focus more on the paraclinical, so the unhealthy animal, and also the clinical components of the course, which Jill will go into more depth at 3 o'clock, because we have the majority of our clinics and hospitals here. So on the right hand side of this image, which I'm showing, is our sort of current main reception. And you might be able to see there's a little walkway at ground level between the next building, which is the Eclipse building. We're currently undergoing around a £45 million investment in this facility to expand the student space by about 40%. Again, basically doing what we've done at Camden up at Hawkshead so that we have the most state-of-the-art facilities that we possibly can. And what you will see when I start this video playing is an animation of what our campus should look like in by the end of 2021, assuming there are no further delays in terms of any pandemics, so on and so forth. So as you heard me mention a second ago, this is currently an open walkway. As you can see, what we're going to do is unite the two buildings, the reception and the Eclipse building, which is on the left-hand side of that initial image, which I referred to. Hopefully our students and staff members will be a lot more animated than these cardboard cutouts we've essentially got as you sort of fly through the developments that are currently undertaking. On the left-hand side, that's likely to be a shop, so providing our students with access to amenities as well as buying that branded stash, which a lot of students you'll probably find wearing. You might see a horse skeleton towards the left-hand side, and we're just going to come around to Eclipse in a second. That's our Eclipse statue. So I mentioned we were founded in 1791. This horse is the reason for our founding, we believe, and hence why we've got the Eclipse building. So Eclipse was a very famous racehorse who never lost any of his races. After being at stud for many years, once he passed away, the racing community wanted to know why he was so successful. So the French veterinarian who I mentioned founded the Royal Veterinary College, Charles St. Bell, performed a post-mortem on Eclipse and found that Eclipse had an enlarged heart, which was what was powering him to all of those victories. And it's debated to this day that between 80 up to 95% of racing stock comes from his lineage, so still having an impact today. So as you can see here, open spaces for our students to work. And as we go through the summer school, what you'll see is we really want you to get to work as in small groups and as teams, because it will definitely help develop you, as well as sort of the typical presentations which our students would experience in lecture theatres similar to this. So just down the road from that our main sort of campus buildings, we have our Bolton's Park Farm, which have turkeys probably coming in about now, to be honest, in the lead up to the 2 Thanksgivings and the Christmas vacation period. We have sheep, as you can see towards the top right hand side of the picture, so ewes and lambs, typically between 400 to 600 in the springtime, which is when we typically lamb. It's primarily a dairy farm, as you might well be able to have guessed from the from sort of the Yorkshire barn in the centre, and that provides milk to a big supermarket company, typically going to Tesco or going into ice creams through Arla, who's the company who create a lot of stuff in the UK. And this is where students will typically be introduced to animal handling of production animals, and it is on our 575-acre estate, but it's about a mile from our main entrance. Just to show you in a student bedroom at Hawkshead, very similar in terms of amenities, slightly different in terms of the finish, just because of the year that it was completed. And again, there is a video on our online pre-vet summer school website if you want to have a look into New Student Village, which is the accommodation which we showed. College Close is for veterinary nursing students, and Odium Hall is typically more for emergency accommodation. So you'll just find New Student Village there. Hey, so I mentioned at the top of the call, but I hope you won't mind me sort of re-emphasizing what our goals were when sort of establishing the schedule for the summer school. We want to basically help improve yourself, both academically and I guess professionally, or you might call it personally, to become the best student that you can be, so that if you decide to apply, whether it be to the RVC or any other school, you will fulfill the potential that we have seen in you by granting you a place on the pre-vet summer school. We had hundreds and hundreds of applications, and you as a community are the best of that bunch. So give yourself either a theoretical or physical pat on the back, and hopefully we can help you become better and better as we go through the week. Now, as you know, with regards to the questionnaire which we sent out to you, we also asked you for your goals to see whether we could refine anything within the schedule to make sure we hopefully tick as many of your goals as well as our goals as possible. Now, what I've done is I've highlighted the two sort of sections which I felt perhaps we didn't convey in our overall goal. And I hope that the writing that I've left in black, you can see that somewhere it fits into our own objective, albeit being a lot better in terms of sentence, basically. So we hope over the next week that we will meet all of these goals. So rather than thinking them of this is our goal as staff and student ambassadors and these are your goals, we just want to reassure you that this is what we are working to achieve in the next 5 days. Now, if there's any more which you think of, please feel free to add them to the chat or add them to the Microsoft Teams chat, which hopefully you all have access to. And it's a flexible list of goals. And at the end of the week, we'll say, have we met this? Have we met that? And then if we haven't met any to your standards or to our standards, we'll look for other ways to hopefully develop yourself in those particular areas. So we also asked you how you wanted to be treated. And I mentioned at the top of the call that we wanted to try and facilitate that sense of community, ultimately to reflect the Royal Veterinary College, which has a family environment, which if you've watched our welcome, sort of our introductory welcome videos, you will have got hopefully a sense of that we all feel part of a family, and a family is obviously extremely supportive. So what I've done here is list all of the skills and I have merged some together and perhaps not used exacting terminology which you submitted. But if there's anything here which anyone does not agree with or thinks that should be added, please do, as I say, add it in the chat of this particular meeting or in the Microsoft Teams chat. Now, I think they were all absolutely fantastic behaviours, and I would like to suggest that we all follow these, both staff and students, because we are your peers now. We are a team rather than us and them. So I think great selection of skills there. We as staff wanted to suggest a few additional ones which might well have been encapsulated within some of the skills which you've put forward, but we wanted to say be brave. We know that you're going to be nervous. I'll reaffirm that you are not being assessed at any point during this summer school. So we're not making notes saying, oh, this student was really good or this student asked this question. What we want to achieve out of this week is to give you as much as you need to help develop yourself and make you a stronger candidate than you were, say, on Sunday or yesterday. I think we all need to essentially make sure that everyone agrees to this community spirit that we have. So if someone isn't kind or isn't polite, just being professional and saying, oh, I don't think that's quite the best way to say that, or I'd use this terminology. So as I say, that's just self-policing ourselves. The big thing I would say is help others, because I'm a strong believer in karma, if you want to call it that. And by that I mean, whilst it might not feel at the time that you're getting anything out of helping someone else, I can assure you that karma will come the other way and someone will help you out when you need that assistance. And from a personal perspective, and I'm sure I know I speak on behalf of the ambassadors and Rich as well, that there is nothing more rewarding than helping others. And whilst I'm sure your aspiration is to help animals, helping people as well is equally as rewarding. Being professional, so that just means, I think, meeting all of these behaviours that you've identified and we've identified. Be proactive, so don't sit back and wait for things to come to yourself. Instead, be brave, ask questions, read around subjects, try and engage as much as you can and be present in the moment rather than thinking about, oh, and we've got this later, or I've got this evening. And be responsible for your actions, which sort of links to being professional. I would suggest. So if anyone you feel doesn't meet these behaviours and everyone has signed a code of conduct, ourselves included, then please let a student ambassador know, or myself or Rich know, because we want to just nip that in the bud and say, don't think that's quite the way to deal with that situation. Now, we've never had to talk to anyone, and that's testament to these students over the last 5 years whom we've welcomed to summer schools, so we don't expect it to be an issue. As I say, if you want to add any behaviours to this list, then please do. Now, with regards to our social media policy, absolutely fine, as you can see on my left-hand side, to share non-teaching content. So, headers of presentations as an example on the left-hand side. But on the right-hand side, you can see a specimen. Whilst they're in this environment, so we are all here, we've chosen to come here in order to develop our knowledge and insight about improving animal health and welfare. It doesn't seem necessarily that shocking to see a piece of anatomy, or hopefully it doesn't. However, if you are walking down the street, which someone could be if they follow you on social media and click on what you're posting on Twitter, Facebook, whatever it might well be, and they see that, they might well get slightly either offended or upset because they're not in the same context which we are. So we'd ask that you don't post any specimens or content, just because out of context it can make both yourself look not the professional person whom you are, as well as ourselves. And this is something that we remind our students of as well. With regards to clients especially, there's patient confidentiality just the same as there is in human medicine as there is in animal medicine. So absolutely fine to share your experiences. Please copy us in, or retweet you, or like it most likely. please don't teach any, please don't post any teaching content. If in doubt, either ask and/or don't post it. Okay, so now we're moving a bit more towards the approach that we might well suggest that you get involved or you think about, and we'll explore this as we go through the sessions later today. In case you're wondering what's happening here, because I appreciate that this image is somewhat pixelated because it's not that higher quality. This is a gymnasium, so somewhere people go to get fit. You can see the stairs, self-powered stairs, so walking up the stairs to get into the gym, or on both the left and right-hand side, you can see the escalators. The more you put in, the more you'll get out. And not only is that true of the summer school, but we would also suggest it's true of anything that you undertake, whether that be work placement, so work experience, whether that be the course itself. And I'm sure if you've managed to watch the student ambassador videos when they introduce themselves, you'll see that they suggest the very same. They get involved in sports clubs, societies, teaching, students' union, amongst other things. So please, please, the more you put in, the more you will get out. Now, in terms of an approach, and I think this is almost ingrained within each and every one of us, and if it's not ingrained within you, I mean no offense by me suggesting that, but I would say typically in life, we're almost, as I say, tempted to treat it as a race. I want to be the best at this. I want to get to this goal first, so on and so forth. So that's why I've used the analogy of, in this case, the 110-meter hurdles. And that's one way to approach it. But what I would suggest is working together rather than independently. Because if you imagine each of these racers having to carry on their back, let's say a 20-kilogram weight, each, or combined they could pull a 20-kilogram weight between all of them, they would no doubt go for the latter. And if you're working together, it will be a heck of a lot easier than working solo. So please, please work together throughout the summer school, because you will get more out of it. There will be areas where someone has more knowledge in a particular topic than you do, and vice versa. And if you're working together, you'll both benefit from those sort of those expertise which you respectively have. And hopefully, just to reaffirm that, I made, and it's a very basic guesstimation. If each and every one of you has been dreaming of wanting to become a veterinary student for a year, then there would be about 70 years of experience just within this community of wanting to pursue an animal-related career. So not only is there the experience of the staff and student ambassadors of around 60 years, there's more experience just amongst yourself, and that's assuming that you've only been wanting to be a veterinarian for the last year, which I strongly suspect is not the case. I'm sure that wealth of experience goes back a lot further than that. So grasp all of the opportunities that this week will present, including speaking to one another, speaking to the staff and students, because we've all got experiences which no doubt will benefit one another. And that's primarily why we set up the Microsoft Teams platform. This platform will serve as a supportive community to answer any questions which you have. So you can either post it in general or go to your respective house and ask any of the student ambassadors a question. And as I say, none of this is related to us making assessments. It's purely to help you get the most out of the summer school. If you haven't yet installed this, I'd strongly suggest doing it by later today, because this is the platform which you'll be breaking into your seminar groups into, and that will start tomorrow. So the seminar groups will be using this platform to break into groups. So before I introduce our graduates to talk about their experiences working across the veterinary teams, I think, Rich, there's a couple of questions that I'm going to answer.
Yeah, Thank you, Chris. So we've had a question here from Heather, who has asked, out of interest, will suggested wider reading be provided in addition to each seminar this week?
Very good question. Thanks for that, Heather. So we have got a few resources to suggest to students to read in addition to the pre-recorded content. But if you want anything more, and obviously this doesn't just go to Heather, it goes to everyone else on the call as well. If you do want a little bit more information on a particular topic, then ask for it. Be brave, and I'm sure that just as Heather's question here has hopefully benefited everyone on the call, if you're asking in your house, oh, what would you suggest me reading about this particular content, it will benefit other students. Hopefully that answers your question, Heather.
Okay, and that's all the questions we have for now.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that, Rich. So it's my absolute pleasure now to introduce, he hopes, having been looking at the presentation screen for the last 40 minutes, hopefully both Zoe and Sam are on the call. Oh, sorry.
Yep, I'm here.
Fantastic. And that was Zoe, I think, wasn't it?
Zoe, yep.
Fantastic. Sam, have you been able to join us?
I'm here too. Hi.
Fantastic. I don't know if you're in a suitable location to turn your video on if you haven't already, just so that the students can see you. I always think it's a bit better to see a smiling face rather than a letter or a couple of letters in a name.
Cool. I should be viewable now, hopefully. Hi, everyone.
I can see you, Sam. So hopefully everyone else can as well. That's fantastic. And I can't see Zoe yet, but I'm assuming she's either just come out of concert.
I think my camera's on. Can you see me?
I can see you now. Fantastic.
Perfect.
So hopefully all of the summer schoolers can see us three as well, because I think it's a bit more personal, and we want to reflect the community that we have at the RVC. And I think just to highlight that, we've got two students who finished, let's say, a number of years ago from the RVC, but are kindly volunteering their time up until the hour to sort of talk about suggested experiences which they had during their time as students respectively and now in the profession. Okay, and Jordan can see us all as well, so thanks for that feedback, Jordan. Okay, so I think I was going to start. Who was I going to start with? Was it with you, Sam, or was it with Zoe?
Either. Should we introduce ourselves, Zoe, and tell everyone what we do?
Absolutely.
So yeah, both of us are RVC graduates. I am a veterinary nurse, wearing my greens today. So I was a student at the RVC and qualified in 2015, and I finished my Bachelor's of Science degree in 2016. I basically decided to stay on at the RVC. We have a little motto here called RVC for life, and it's something you'll see at graduation should you choose to come to the Royal Vet College. And I've taken that quite literally, because I now work at the Queen Mother Hospital, which is our referral hospital at the Hawkshead campus. So I work in the emergency and critical care department. I also have a certificate in emergency and critical care, and I work very closely with students in my job. I work on the intensive care unit and the emergency room. Over to you, Zoe.
So, yep, I'm Zoe. I graduated from the RVC in 2018 as a veterinary surgeon. I started in 2011, so I was here for 7 years, quite a long time, doing a few different courses, which we'll probably tell you a bit about later in the week. I did a year in mixed practice, so small animal and farm animal. And for the last year, I've also been working in emergency and critical care for a big out-of-hours company called Vets Now. Yeah, so I basically do a lot of night shifts and weekend shifts as well. So both myself and Sam are quite into the whole emergency and critical care side of the veterinary profession.
Fantastic. And you might have heard some of the sort of back end of we were talking about behaviours and approaches to take, and I don't know whether you have any experiences, whether it be on the course and or in your current profession, where that, I guess, that that teamwork and ethos, you know, or being very proactive, sort of definitely benefited yourselves later down the road, or that support really helped you. I don't know, Sam, if you want to agree or disagree with anything
Absolutely.
like that.
So I guess there's so many qualities that you need to have working in the veterinary profession. I know you mentioned teamwork, Chris, and that's definitely a massive one, regardless of where you work. I am very lucky working where I do. I work with quite a large team. And so, as well as the 30 nurses in my ECC team, we also work with some ECC specialists. We work with some residents who are sort of becoming specialists. They're there for 3 years. We also work with patient care assistants who are absolute angels, picking up the slack when we're so busy and don't have time to walk and feed the patients. There is a massive sort of infrastructure at the QMH. So, you know, there's a huge reception team, there's the cleaning team, there's all the different departments in the hospital. And of course, there are the students. You guys are absolutely part of the team at the RVC, and because of lockdown and COVID, things have been a little bit strange over the last few months. We haven't had students around until quite recently, and it's something I've really missed. I would say that being a student at the RVC and spending time at the QMH, you're absolutely integral to the team. So, for example, when I work on the emergency room, the students will be going out and helping with triages, they'll be liaising with owners, they'll be taking histories, they'll be helping with treatments. Teamwork is absolutely just an integral part of our job, wherever you are in the veterinary profession. Nurses, vets, students, whoever else it is, we all really rely on each other. I imagine it's the same for you, Zoe, potentially on a little bit of a smaller scale in vets now.
Absolutely. So even though myself and Sam work in the same kind of environment, it is the complete opposite. We are skeleton staff. So I am sole charge. I'm the only vet on duty all night, and I have one nurse, and it's basically the pair of us, and that is it all night. So you can imagine, even though it's still emergency, it's still very fast paced, the difference in the amount of staff and people to kind of help you is huge. So I think for obviously in the QMH, I suppose when they're handing over, there's a big team handing over to a big team. Whereas for me, I think it's a bit different in that when I hand over a patient to somebody else, if I get anything wrong, then no one's there to kind of correct me, no one's there to pick up any more information. So teamwork is really important in that. It's me and my nurse, and we've got to make sure that we're both aware of everything that's going on with the patient, and not just with the patient, but in the clinic as well, because it's not just a case of looking after the patients, it's everything else. We're running the clinic between the two of us. So teamwork is so important. And I think going back to being a student, because I was only a student just over 2 years ago, rotations are so important to work together on, because you're in a group of, I think there were 6 of us in my rotation group, and you are with each other all the time, and you are in a very intense environment. Really, it's extremely enjoyable, but it's very intense, and the workload's very high, and you've got to work together to get through it, and to get through it as best you can as well. And there's many times throughout the vet course where you've got to work together, even if it's just for an assignment. Like a lot of the time you're going to be doing a presentation in groups, or you're going to be doing certain things in groups, and it's so important to work as a team to get the most out of it. Because as much as university might seem a long way away, and when you're at uni you might think that, oh, university is for a very long time, whether that be for a 4-year, 5 years, 6 years, 7 year, in some cases course, it comes to an end, and you've got to pick up those skills as you go along, because it's so important in real life.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, Sam. I was just going to say, did you guys find, was there a bit of a, I guess, an acclimatization with regards to coming from high school or college or wherever you came from to university, in the sense of going from I want to be top of my class to I want to work with my peers, as you both have so eloquently said. It is vitally important, whether it be in a big team like the QMH, where we have a video of the QMH on our online pre-vet summer school website, or a slightly smaller, perhaps more typical emergency team. Zoe, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, it's a hard question, really. I mean, you've got some similarities, but then a lot of things are very different. Obviously, when you're in high school, everyone's very, very different, and you might have a few people in your class who are interested in going into the veterinary profession in one way or another. I know for me, there was nobody else in my year who wanted to go down that route. There were some people interested in human medicine, or I think there's somebody who wanted to do dentistry. So in that way, you could kind of support each other when you're at school. High school, college, or wherever you guys are now. But when you come to vet school or nursing or whatever you want to do, you've all got the same interests. So it's really important to create, as I say, obviously teamwork, but create a support system as well, because you're all interested in the same thing. You're all going through the same thing. You've all got a very, very similar goal. So in that way, it's different. So it's hard because most people will be leaving home and traveling halfway across the world. For a lot of you guys, I was traveling 2 hours away, so it's very, very different. But it's still, you've got to create a support system, and obviously all being in the same boat, or a similar boat, should I say, is very. It's important to create that support system, because you're going to have challenges. Obviously you're going to have challenges, but they're great challenges as well. So I think that's a big difference between obviously high school, where you're kind of alone in that there's not many people who want to do the same things as you. You're most likely top of the class. I definitely wasn't, but a lot of you are probably top of the class. But it's going to be a bit of a change going to vet school when you're all very, very similar. You've all got the same mindset, so you're probably not going to be the top of the class, which is I think it can be quite difficult for some people, but you don't need to be. You've got to where you want to go, and now you can just focus on yourself and focus on passing getting through each week, let alone getting through each year, because there's a lot of years to get through. So I think creating that support system is really, really important when you first get to whatever uni you go to, hopefully RVC, but it's getting a support system and making that network.
And I guess that also goes for the summer school, as we've sort of alluded to. Where else, I'll put my teeth in, would you be able to converse with around 70 students from around the world, all who have that interest of wanting to improve animal health and welfare? So I would say, engage in this community as you would engage in that support community when you get to vet school. And similarly, those people on this summer school will hopefully be your flatmates, your peers when you're on rotation, so on and so forth. Sam, I might ask you a slightly different question.
Yeah.
With sort of particularly focusing on the vet and vet nurse relationship, could you have one without the other?
Oh, definitely not. No. I would say that we both do very, very different jobs. And it's quite interesting because for me, back when I was at school, I originally wanted to be a vet. And I actually got onto the foundation gateway, the gateway course many years ago. And in the end, I didn't quite make the grade for chemistry, and I had all this work experience, and it's very strange for me to look back at now, because now that I do veterinary nursing, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. I couldn't see myself being a vet. I think everything happens for a reason, and I'm glad I ended up where I did. But our roles are so different, and we're definitely a team. It's quite interesting working, particularly in the intensive care unit. So I was at work overnight, actually. I finished work at 8:30 this morning. So if I become a bit zombie-like, that is why. Apologies in advance. But I was working with 2 residents who would sort of, oversee the more finer clinical aspects to my patients. But I am the eyes and ears of my patients. I am the one that is with them pretty much all the time. I am reporting back to my vet. Obviously, it works differently in different practices. But yeah, essentially, your vet and your nurse will have a very close working relationship, do very, very different jobs, but be part of the same team and want the same outcome. And I think working in the veterinary environment, obviously teamwork is essential, but as I think Zoe mentioned earlier, you need to be there to support each other. Supporting each other, I think, particularly when you're having times when the job is a little bit tough. So, there are times working in the veterinary profession, whether you work in emergency and critical care, other small animal areas, or with large animals at equine, there are going to be times that you are super, super busy. There are going to be times that there are sad cases when patients, don't quite have the outcome that you hope for. And the vets and the nurses and the entire team really need to be there for each other at that time. Being a support system for each other is just so essential. And it's something that I come across quite regularly in work. Vets and nurses. Can't actually remember what your original question was, Chris, but there
Can you have one without the other?
Definitely part of the same team.
Yeah,
working closely together.
Fantastic. And I might finish with a question for Zoe, and I think that's linked to a question from Heather as well. And so Zoe, I know Sam has mentioned that she's sort of just come off a night shift, and you work nights as well. Heather's keen to know about that workload being overnight veterinarian. I guess she's asked particularly how it compares to a junior doctor, and I know you're not junior doctors, so I don't think you'll necessarily be able to compare it with that, but I guess how do you cope with that, I guess, different pattern of working, or that intensity of work, and I guess linked to that, is it still enjoyable and what you expected?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So as I said, I did a year in normal practice. So I was working, I had very long hours, I have to say. I was working normal daytime hours, so I was working 8 a.m. till around 6, 7 o'clock at night, kind of depending on the caseload. And I was a normal GP. So I saw your vaccinations, your itchy dogs, your itchy cats. I did farm work. So I went out and did like pregnancy diagnosis and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I enjoyed it, but I don't know, there was one part where we did our own out of hours. So at least one night a week I would be on call. So I'd go home when everything was done. I'd have a phone with me all night, and then obviously I'd have to go in. And as much as that stuff was hard, because a lot of the time, I mean, sleeping's very important. You need to be able to sleep, but there were times when I didn't get much sleep, but that kind of work I personally really, really enjoyed. So when I left my last job, I kind of decided that I really liked that kind of work, but I also liked the idea of set hours, in that I start at a particular time and you try and finish at a particular time, and you don't always finish on time, but you do your best. And that's just something that I particularly enjoyed. So I do long hours. I do about 14-hour shifts. So I start at 7 p.m. I finish at around 9 o'clock in the morning, which is long. And that sounds a bit horrific, but I don't do too many of them. I don't do that 5-6 days a week, because that would just be crazy. So I actually have a bit of a better work-life balance in this job. And I really enjoy it, because you never know what's going to be coming through the door. You might find out about 10 minutes before they turn up. But it's something that I really, really enjoy. And yes, obviously, being a junior doctor, I can't comment. I've never done. So I don't know. I know their workload is huge, and at times my workload is huge, and I do sometimes feel like I'm drowning, hence the really important support system that we mentioned earlier. Again, all my staff, all my nurses are amazing, and if I ever need help, there are people that I can call. I definitely had to do that on some bank holidays, let me say. Just too many cases where I just can't cope with it by myself, being sole charge. So in terms of being a junior doctor, I'm afraid I can't really comment. I don't really know. But it's something that I actually really enjoy, and I've been much happier in this job because it's something that I've got a particular interest in. A lot of my friends still do the GP work in first opinion practice, and they love it. I didn't hate it, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't exciting enough for me, I don't think. Whereas now I get the really crazy cases in the middle of the night. I get the cesareans at 2 a.m. I get to do all that, which is really cool. So I think for me it works really well. And obviously there's other bits and pieces like sleeping patterns. And I have to say, I don't know whether I've even got that right even a year in, but it's something that works for me as a person. And I think that's what's important, is as you go through uni, and to be honest, you never stop learning, you're constantly learning, you'll find out what is your niche and what really interests you. So for me, for example, a lot of people on this call, the 70 odd people who are here, a lot of you are probably interested in equine. And I mean, for me, that never really interested me. And if I'm honest, I probably knew enough to pass finals, and that was it. And because I knew that I'd never be going in the horse direction. Whereas a lot of these people, a lot of you guys on the call are probably like, oh yeah, no, I just want to do equine. I love horses. And that's the beauty of the profession, that as much as it sounds very, very specific, veterinary medicine, veterinary surgery, there are so many directions that you can go in. It's crazy. And there's so many people who I graduated with, and they're doing jobs that I can't even imagine doing personally. But I know people look at my job and they're like, yeah, no, I couldn't do that because of the kind of stuff that I do. So it's very individual, and you'll probably find, so there's 68 people I can see plus on this call, you'll probably find that there's 68 different directions that you will go in when, hopefully when you will like go through it and graduate yourself. So yeah, it's very individual. And I know what I do isn't for everybody, but I particularly really enjoy it, and obviously Sam does as well, having done it for a few years as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, both Sam and Zoe. We hope that gave you a bit of an insight into hopefully the approach to take. We're going to stop the call there. Hopefully you can stretch your legs for a minute or so, and we'll start the call with Jill on Zoom very shortly. Okay, so thank you both Zoe and Sam on behalf of the summer school, and thank you to the summer school students for those questions and being engaged, and we'll see you on the Zoom call in a couple of minutes. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.